Bullies picked on the new kid. They had no idea he was a kickboxing champion. Alex Parker, 15, nervously adjusted his backpack strap as he stared at the facade of Lincoln High School. It was his first day after his family had moved from a small town in Oregon to Boston. At first glance, Alex seemed an easy target, skinny, average height with rectangular glasses that constantly slid down his nose, and a slight stoop that betrayed his shyness. What no one at Lincoln High could possibly imagine was that behind this harmless appearance was a young kickboxing champion with 3 national titles in his weight class. His father, a professional trainer, had taught him since he was 7 years old. "Remember, Alex," his father constantly repeated, "martial arts are for protection, not intimidation." Alex had internalized this philosophy so deeply that it had become his personal mantra. Back in Oregon, he'd never had to use his skills outside the ring, but something in the atmosphere of Lincoln High gave him an unpleasant feeling in his stomach. The school was an imposing 3-story building, with a central courtyard where students gathered before first period. As Alex walked down the main corridor, he noticed curious glances directed at him. Being the new kid was always hard, but he hoped to remain unnoticed. That hope vanished when, turning a corner, he accidentally bumped into Ryan Thompson. Ryan was the undisputed king of Lincoln High, tall, strong, captain of the football team, with a smile that melted half the female student body. Next to him, like loyal lieutenants, were always Jason Edwards and Kevin "Slim" Williams. The 3 of them formed a triad that everyone feared. "Hey, watch where you're going, Four Eyes," Ryan exclaimed, shoving Alex against the lockers. The metallic crash made several students turn around. Alex simply lowered his gaze. "Sorry," he mumbled, trying to continue on his way, but Ryan wasn't finished. "Hey guys," the new kid stutters. He smirked, blocking his path. "What's your name?" "Shrimp." "Alex," he replied without raising his eyes. "Alex," Ryan mimicked in a squeaky voice while Jason and Kevin laughed. "Welcome to Lincoln High, little Alex. We have a tradition with newcomers here. Right, guys?" The other 2 nodded with malicious smiles. Alex clenched his fist in his hoodie pocket, feeling adrenaline beginning to flow through his veins. He took a deep breath, remembering his father's teachings. "Not the time or place. I have class," he said in a calm but firm voice, walking around the trio and continuing on his way under their laughter behind his back. The first weeks at Lincoln High were hell for Alex. What started as minor incidents, accidental shoves in the hallways, mocking comments during classes, giggling when he walked by, soon escalated into more humiliating situations. In the cafeteria, Ryan accidentally knocked his tray of spaghetti onto Alex's clothes. In gym class, Jason hid his uniform, forcing him to wear a spare that was ridiculously oversized. During group work, Kevin spread a rumor that Alex had cried when he had to give a presentation. Ms. Roberts, the literature teacher, seemed the only one to notice something strange, but never intervened directly. "If you need someone to talk to," she told him once after class, leaving the phrase hanging in the air. Alex just nodded with a polite smile and quickly left. The back courtyard near the basketball courts became the most dangerous zone for Alex. That's where the trio of bullies had their headquarters, and that's where Alex experienced his worst moments. One day, as he was passing through to take a shortcut to the exit, he heard Ryan's voice. "Little Alex, what luck running into you here?" Alex stopped, assessing his options. He could turn around, but that would give them the pleasure of seeing him flee. He decided to go forward, ignoring them. Bad decision. Within seconds, he was surrounded by the trio. Jason grabbed his backpack and started pulling out notebooks, throwing them on the ground. Kevin filmed everything on his phone, laughing. "Let's see what secrets our friend Alex keeps," Ryan commented, pulling Alex's phone from his jacket pocket. "Ooh, what do we have here?" Blood froze in Alex's veins. In his gallery were photos from kickboxing competitions. If they saw them, his secret would be revealed. For a moment he thought about stopping them by force. His muscles tensed, ready for action, but he held back. Not yet. Not the time. "Give back the phone." "What?" Ryan said, genuinely surprised by the sudden firmness in Alex's voice. "I said give back the phone," he repeated with a calm that surprised even himself. Ryan raised an eyebrow, intrigued by this sudden change in tone. Wow, the mouse found his voice. And what will you do if I don't return it? Alex held his gaze, without blinking. I'm just asking you to return it. Something in his tone made Ryan doubt for a second, but he quickly regained his mask of superiority. Let's make this more fun. If you want your phone, you'll have to get on your knees and beg like a good dog. Jason's and Kevin's laughter echoed across the yard. A few passing students stopped to watch, forming a small circle around the scene. No one intervened. No one ever intervened when it came to Ryan and his company. Alex felt humiliation burning, his chest, mixing with suppressed rage that threatened to break out. At that moment, a voice called from across the yard. Hey, what's going on here? It was Coach Wilson, the PE teacher, approaching with determined steps. Ryan quickly stuffed Alex's phone into his pocket. Nothing, Coach, just chatting, he answered. With his best innocent smile, Coach Wilson looked at Alex, who stood with his head down. Everything okay, Parker? Alex silently nodded, picking up his notebooks from the ground. There was no point involving the teacher. It would only make things worse. Move along, all of you, ordered Coach Wilson, dispersing the onlookers. And you three, I expect you on time for my class tomorrow. Understood? The trio nodded, walking away. But Ryan whispered to Alex, This isn't over, little Alex. We'll continue our conversation tomorrow. That night, lying in bed, Alex mentally replayed the incident. His phone had fortunately been returned after Coach Wilson insisted, but the humiliation remained. For weeks he had silently endured the bullying, hoping they would eventually tire and leave him alone. But now he realized that wouldn't happen. With a sigh, he got up and went to the small gym his father had set up in the garage. He needed to release his frustration. As he hit the heavy bag with precision and power, his father's words echoed in his head. A true warrior knows when to fight and when to hold back. After an hour of intense training, Alex made a decision. He would no longer hold back. He wouldn't use his strength to attack, but he wouldn't let them continue to trample his dignity. It was time to set boundaries. The next day, he entered school with renewed determination. His posture was straighter, his gaze more confident. Several classmates noticed the change, looking at him curiously as he walked through the corridors to his first class. During break, Emily Barnes, a girl from his math class with whom he had barely exchanged a few words, sat next to him in the cafeteria. You look different today, she noted with interest, observing him. More focused. Alex smiled slightly. Everyone's seen what Ryan and his friends have been doing to you, she continued, lowering her voice. It's not fair, but nobody dares to stand up to them. You too? Asked Alex without an accusatory tone. Emily lowered her gaze, embarrassed. I guess I'm not as brave as I'd like to be. Sometimes courage isn't about confronting others, but confronting yourself, replied Alex, surprised by his own maturity. The conversation was interrupted by the appearance of Ryan and his henchmen, who approached their table with mocking expressions. Look at that. Little Alex found himself a girlfriend, Ryan exclaimed, causing laughter among nearby students. Couldn't you find someone with better taste, Emily? The girl's face reddened. But before she could answer, Alex slowly stood up. A tense silence fell over the cafeteria. Enough, Ryan, he said in a calm but firm voice. The surprise was evident on Ryan's face, who hadn't expected such a reaction. He quickly hid it behind a contemptuous smirk. Sorry, did you say something, little Alex? I said enough, Alex repeated, holding his gaze without blinking. You've humiliated me, you've stolen from me, you've tried to intimidate me. Enough. The entire cafeteria held its breath. No one, absolutely no one, had ever challenged Ryan Thompson so directly. Well, well, Ryan replied, recovering from the initial surprise. Looks like the mouse found his voice. And what do you plan to do about it, huh? Alex didn't answer immediately. Instead, he simply picked up his tray. I'm not going to fight you, Ryan. I'm not afraid of you. But I have nothing to prove to you either. As he walked away, he felt a hand on his shoulder that roughly spun him around. Jason blocked his path while Kevin began filming on his phone, anticipating what would happen next. Ryan stepped up close, just inches from his face. Nobody talks to me like that, understand? he whispered with contained fury. "Nobody." Alex felt a shove before he could react. His tray crashed to the floor, and he had to lean on a table to avoid falling. The entire cafeteria was now watching. Them. Some with concerned expressions, others with anticipation, many simply relieved they weren't Ryan's target. "Today, after school, behind the courts," Ryan continued, encouraged by the approving whispers of some students, "we'll show you what happens when someone thinks they're smarter than us." Alex calmly picked up his backpack from the floor. He didn't respond to the threat, just nodded slightly before leaving the cafeteria. Throughout the rest of the day, rumors of the confrontation spread across the school like wildfire. By the time the last bell rang, everyone at Lincoln High knew that Ryan Thompson and the new kid would have a showdown behind the courts. Alex went to his locker to leave a few books before heading to the meeting place. Walking through the corridors, he noticed the glances following him, some sympathetic, others with morbid curiosity. No one expected him to survive the beating that Ryan and his friends would undoubtedly give him. Emily caught up with him right before exiting to the yard. "You don't have to do this," she said with genuine concern in her voice. "You could talk. To the principal, report them." Alex shook his head. "This is more than just Ryan and his threats. It's about setting a boundary, not letting fear dictate my life." "But it's 3 against 1, she insisted. Alex smiled slightly. "Appearances can be deceiving, Emily." And with those enigmatic words, he headed toward the courts. The back courtyard was unusually crowded for the end of the school day. Students from all classes had gathered, forming a semicircle, leaving the central space where Ryan, Jason, and Kevin were already waiting. The news had spread so quickly that even some teachers seemed to have found out, as Coach Wilson watched from a safe distance, ready to intervene if the situation got out of control. Seeing Alex approach, Ryan smiled smugly. "Wow, I thought you'd run away like the coward you are." Alex placed his backpack on the ground and stepped forward. His calm expression confused Ryan, who had expected to see fear in his eyes. "I'm not a coward, Ryan, and I don't want trouble, but if you insist on this, I won't hold back anymore." Jason's and Kevin's laughter accompanied his words. "Hold back?" "You," Jason scoffed. "What are you going to do, hit us with your books?" Alex remained impassive. "Last chance. We can end this right now. Everyone goes their own way, and tomorrow we start from scratch." The suggestion seemed so ridiculous coming from the supposedly defenseless Alex that Ryan couldn't hold back his laughter. "Hear that, guys? Little Alex is giving us a chance." He moved closer, invading his personal space. "The only one who needs a chance here is you, loser." And with those words, he pushed him so hard that Alex should have fallen. But Alex, anticipating the movement, barely moved. The surprise on Ryan's face was obvious, but quickly changed to fury. He tried to throw a punch, but this time Alex moved with such speed and precision that all present gasped. With a fluid motion, he dodged the blow, and using Ryan's momentum, threw him off balance with a simple redirection of his arm. Ryan staggered, confused by what had just happened. "What the hell?" he muttered, while Jason and Kevin exchanged bewildered glances. The crowd around them began to whisper. No one could believe what they had just seen. The shy new kid had just easily evaded Ryan Thompson's attack. "I warned you," Alex calmly said. "I don't want to fight, but I know how to defend myself." The humiliation further fueled Ryan's rage. "Get him," he ordered his friends, who hesitated for a moment before rushing at Alex. What followed made everyone present drop their jaws. With precise and controlled movements, Alex dodged, blocked, and neutralized each attack. He didn't strike to cause pain, just used the force and momentum of the attackers against themselves. Jason ended up on the ground after an attempt at a grab that Alex turned into a perfect throw. Kevin, receiving a painful but non-traumatic block, retreated, rubbing his arm. Ryan, seeing how easily his friends were neutralized, pulled a knife from his pocket. A collective gasp was distinctly heard. This was no longer a school fight. This was something much more serious. "Enough!" shouted Coach Wilson, moving toward them, but stopped when he saw Alex raise his hand, indicating he should keep his distance. "This is your last chance, Ryan," warned Alex. His voice was now full of authority that no one had ever heard from him before. "Put that away And let's end this nonsense. Ryan, blinded by humiliation and rage, lunged at him with the knife. What happened next would be etched in the collective memory of Lincoln High for years to come. With millimeter precision, Alex dodged the blade, grabbed Ryan's wrist, and pressing on certain points, made him drop the weapon while simultaneously immobilizing him on the ground with a technique that seemed taken from a martial arts film. "It's over," Alex said, holding Ryan immobilized without apparent effort. "Understand? The bullying is over. The threats are over. The fear is over." Ryan, face to the ground with his arm painfully twisted behind his back, desperately nodded. Alex released him and stood up, picked up the knife and handed it to Coach Wilson, who had watched the scene with a mixture of amazement and relief. The ensuing silence was broken by a solitary clap, then another, and suddenly the entire yard erupted in cheers and applause. Students who for weeks had been silent witnesses to the bullying now celebrated the fall of the bullies. That evening, sitting in the principal's office with his parents and Ryan's parents, Alex recounted his version of events. The knife, along with the video Kevin had been filming, which incriminated all three bullies, was sufficient evidence. Ryan, Jason, and Kevin were temporarily suspended from school, and only Alex's intervention, asking for them to be given a second chance, prevented their permanent expulsion. "Why did you defend them after everything they did to you?" Emily asked him several days later, as they sat on a bench in the courtyard during break. Alex shrugged. "Everyone deserves a chance to change and learn from their mistakes. My father always says that true strength isn't in defeating others, but in the ability to show compassion even to those who didn't show it to you." The atmosphere at Lincoln High changed dramatically. Alex, the formerly unnoticed newcomer, now enjoyed respect and admiration. Some students even asked him to teach them a few self-defense techniques, which prompted Coach Wilson to suggest he open a martial arts club at the school. Ryan, returning after his suspension, kept his distance and avoided eye contact. Jason and Kevin seemed just as intimidated, but a month after the incident, something unexpected happened. During PE class, while forming teams for a basketball game, Ryan approached Alex. "Listen," he began, obviously feeling awkward. "I wanted to apologize for everything. I acted like an idiot." Alex silently observed him, evaluating the sincerity of his words. "I don't expect us to become friends or anything," Ryan continued. "Just wanted you to know I've been thinking a lot about what happened and, well, I'm trying to change." To the surprise of everyone present, Alex smiled and extended his hand. "Everyone makes mistakes, Ryan. What's important is learning from them." Ryan, with obvious relief, shook his hand. They wouldn't become best friends overnight, but it was a start. The rest of the school year passed without serious incidents. Alex's martial arts club became one of the most popular at the school, with special emphasis on the philosophy of nonviolence and respect. Even Jason joined, demonstrating a natural talent that surprised everyone. One evening, as Alex was gathering his things after a club session, Coach Wilson approached him. "You know, Parker, when you came to Lincoln High, I thought you were just another shy kid who would go unnoticed." "I'm glad I was wrong," Alex smiled. "Sometimes the quietest people have the most to offer, Coach Wilson. They just need a chance to prove it." Coach Wilson nodded approvingly. "You've changed this place, you know, not just by standing up to Ryan and his group, but by how you did it. You showed that one can be strong without being a bully, that one can earn respect without instilling fear." "That's probably the most important lesson my father taught me," replied Alex, packing his gear into his backpack. "True strength isn't in harming others, but in the ability to avoid it even when you have all the power to do so." Walking home that evening, Alex reflected on the past few months. He had arrived at Lincoln High a stranger, frightened and withdrawn, trying to remain unnoticed. Now, he walked with his head held high. He was greeted by other students, respected, not out of fear but out of admiration. His father's words echoed in his mind. "A true warrior doesn't seek demonstration, Alex. He knows who he is, and that's enough for him. He doesn't need others' approval, and he doesn't seek conflicts to prove his worth. True strength is inside, in your character, in your values." For the first time since he'd arrived in Boston, Alex felt completely at peace with himself. He had faced his fears, established his boundaries without becoming someone he despised, and in the process helped others find a better path. Lincoln High was no longer a place he feared, but a place where he had found his voice, his place, and possibly even new friends, all because he finally decided to stop hiding and show his true strength, not with fists or threats, but with dignity, control, and compassion. That evening, dining with his parents and telling them about his day, his father looked at him with obvious pride. "I'm proud of you, son," he said, "not for your kickboxing skills, but for how you chose to use them. That's the true mark of a champion." Alex smiled, knowing that the real victory wasn't in defeating Ryan that day behind the courts, but in transforming a situation of hatred and fear into an opportunity for growth and change, not just for him but for the entire Lincoln High community. And so, the boy who was once the object of mockery and humiliation became not just another bully, but something much stronger, an example of how true strength lies in self-control, dignity, and the ability to extend a helping hand even to those who once caused you pain. Because, as Alex understood, sometimes the greatest strength isn't in striking but in knowing when to stop. And the greatest victory isn't in defeating an enemy, but in helping them rise and showing them a better way.